Should we just view things going forward as transactional? To other women, when you're having conversations with your peers and things, tell me about the difference between how financial stability and potential is viewed.
From what I'm seeing, and I'm just taking this from a social media scroll. So from a social media scroll, what I'm seeing is that women are expecting men to foot the bill for everything that happens. Women come into meeting a guy, a situationship, whatever, and they already have established habits and they are expecting the man to pay it. There won't be a point where there's an expectation, oh, well, if he wants me to have this, he better give me the money for it. That is what I'm seeing on social media, that there is a level of expectation for a man to maintain what a woman was already doing, or what a woman feels like she needs to do in order to get this man. But on the flip side, because I follow men and women, what I'm seeing from the male perspective is the men are like, but I didn't ask you to do this, so why should I front the bill? And again, women are coming back to that with the, but you should want me to look good as your woman and like all this other stuff. So that's what I'm seeing. Women are like, you should front the bill, you should do it. And men are like, but you're not doing it for me because I like you the way you are.
I just had a thought as you were talking. Should we just view things going forward as transactional? Like, is that the cure for getting people to be together?
But that makes me sad to think that everything has to be so transactional. Because I think we've gotten to a point where we have these expectations of the person that we're dating that are unfair. And that's essentially what an expectation is. It's your belief of how the other person should act, be, think, do, whatever. And you're placing those things on that other person. And that other person does not have to live up to our expectations of them.
Isn't it the thought that counts? So I got into it a few months ago with somebody that I knew. I'm using that word loosely, getting into it, that is, about a friend of mine who drove a Porsche 911 and a Porsche Cayenne, I believe. He bought his wife a Kia, a brand new Kia. My friend was mad and was chopping the dude because he had a Porsche and his wife had a Kia. If you still bought her a brand new car, why is that frowned upon because it's not a Porsche? Like, is the car not enough, or is it like, oh, he's driving a Porsche, I should be driving a Porsche too? I guess what I'm getting at is like, is it never enough?
Well, I would probably say, is that the car that she asked for? If so, none of your business.
All right, so I need y'all advice because I've been getting some mixed information. When I do finally start dating, do I really tell these guys that I have not been on a date in 3 years, which is true? Or do I pretend to have motion like the ocean, like waves that never stop? Because somebody said that you don't never tell nobody that you ain't been on no days and you ain't been doing nothing, because then they think they can treat you like that, but then another person said you don't tell nobody that you got all this emotion because then, they gonna leave you in the sea with the rest of the fish. So what do? Do you be honest and be like, okay, honestly, like I really have not been on a date in like 3 years. I have not been in a committed relationship in over 3 years. And yeah, it's just been me and my inner thoughts. Well, I mean, situationship. Like, yeah. But I'm not proud of that, I'm not trying to share that information with nobody. Didn't go nowhere. We didn't go on no dates. That was during a time where I didn't really care that much. But I care now. Maybe I shouldn't post this. It's starting to get bad.
Well, I guess I would ask what you're doing in that situationship or situationships in case you just happen to accidentally leave something out.
Yeah, that body slam and slut day is the reason why I would never even ever give it a chance. Like, every day showed me why I am the way I am. Like, I never liked men, and it's like God keeps showing me why. Every time I try to compromise, that's just not me, bro.
Shut the fuck.
Okay, listen, I was at the gym and I was doing step-ups, and this man comes up to me, a trainer from the gym, and he says, "Hi, my name's Kevin." And I said, usually at this point I would cut them off and be like, "I'm married," with a male interaction. Can't be too safe out here. But he brought his hand out, so I wasn't worried about any suspicious activity. Seems very professional. And so I say, "Hi, my name's Rena. Nice to meet you." He's like, "Can I ask you a question? I don't mean to interrupt." And I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And he said, "I'm training this woman who's new to the gym," and I asked her what her end goal is here, and she points at me and says, "I want to look like that." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And so he says, "I was just wondering if you could tell me some exercises you feel were the most effective." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's kind of a complex question. Did she say any like muscle group specifically?" And he said, "Just like your lower body." And I was like, "Okay. Thank you."
You know, these women out here, they get a little pump going on. They start showing the little muscles, and they humble yourself is all I'm gonna say.
When guys be finding out that you watch basketball and you really like basketball for real, they be all of a sudden trying to quiz you like, what team Kyrie play for? Who did Michael Jordan play for? What did Michael Jordan play for? What year? When did LeBron win the ring? How many teams LeBron been to? What did LeBron? I'm like, yo.
Well, sorry about that, but we got to make sure you're here for the right reasons.
Can we picture male identity development outside of any reference to women? Just for a second, because let's just take the women, the idea of women, the existence of women, we'll put that aside for a second. They're going to come back later. They're not ceasing to exist. I'm just setting them aside for a minute. And I'm asking the question of, what can male identity development look like without any reference to women? What would that look like? What would it do for you, maybe emotionally, psychologically? Like, what comes up if you're just like, who am I without wanting acceptance from women? Just my identity as a man and living my life as if women didn't exist. Women still exist. They're not going anywhere, I promise. It's just a thought experiment. And my thinking is this. Let's bring women back into the conversation. As a group, this gender has so many different expressions and ways of being, because we're talking about people here. So there's all different types of women with varying political beliefs, religious beliefs. Then you bring it into intersectionality, such as their race, nationality, language, culture. There are other aspects that make up a person, right? So women is a large group, right? And there's all different types. And when you take that away for a second and just focus on your male identity, or even identity development in a global sense, who you are and what your match is, right? Instead of trying to optimize acceptance of a maximum amount of women, there might be value in just being like, hey, this is who I am, and this is what I'm looking for in terms of a match with a woman as a romantic partner. But your masculinity, the sole purpose is not just for attracting women. Like that's just part of you. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm practicing trying to summarize my thoughts because I feel like I have a lot of them, but I think my basic question still stands, is what does male identity development look like outside of any reference to women? Like when you don't bring them into the equation at all, what does that start to look like? Who are you as a man? What descriptors come up to mind? If your goal is no longer trying to find the approval and acceptance of other women, who are you without that? People will approve and disapprove us across our lifetime for various reasons, in and out of the romantic context. Like, life is so big, rich with experiences and rich with opportunities for connection that are outside the romantic and the sex, especially in a heterosexual way. So even though we face rejection and wins across all different domains of life, there's still a sense of I am, right? So what is the I am when we're not thinking about getting the approval and acceptance of women? What does that start to look like?
I think I agree with it. A lot of what you were saying, or at least the concept. You're saying that men need to, or they should, it'd be better for them to just go ahead and say, these are the skills that I'm good at. This is what I'm good at. Let me go ahead and develop it. And whoever comes to me, there's going to be a woman that I find attractive and she's going to find me attractive. And we're going to do pretty good together. That's what you should be looking for. A lot of these other women out there are bums, right? I also think that you can't have masculinity necessarily apart from femininity, just because both exist in the world. So because we both live in the same dynamic, on the one hand, you need to create a space where you're your own person. But on the other hand, you have to learn, both genders should be able to learn how to adapt to each other. So I do agree with the concept that he's got to hone his skills and what he's good at. But then also he's got to be able to adapt to what everybody else is doing without losing himself.
Are you single or taken? I'm taken. Taking a break from these lying ass mother...
Something that men need to realize is that they are not leaders. That is a lie and a story that has been told to men, that they have to be leaders, that they are leaders, that there was a time where they were leaders. I think if that was true, leadership would be a lot easier for men. But it seems to be very difficult. And the way that men obtain leadership seems to be very violent and aggressive, very controlling, abusive, one-sided. They seem to exercise leverage a lot when it comes to leadership, lacking the ability to understand. Men who think that they are in leadership positions, they do not show any signs of emotional intelligence. So they lack the ability to empathize with people. They are not compassionate with you. They are not accepting of you. With that being said, there was a time that men felt like they were leaders when women couldn't work and women couldn't do anything for themselves because the men had to take care of everything in the house. They had to go out and get a job and work and do X, Y, Z. But see, a lot of men look at that as leadership. When you really open up your eyes to it, you see that that's oppression to women. Women damn near couldn't even breathe or blink without a man telling them, or without the government telling them that they could or couldn't. Men continuously go back into those points of time to reference why men have always been leaders. Or they'll try to go with times of Socrates and like that. But even those were trash. A lot of those womanizers, misogynists, something was genuinely wrong with them. You have about 15 to 20 skills of effective communication, and I'm going to list them off for you. Number 1, communication. Number 2, integrity. Number 3, decision making. And number 4, delegation. Number 5, self-awareness. And number 6, conflict resolution. Number 7, creativity. Number 8, motivation. Number 9 is accountability. Number 10, mentorship. Number 11 is problem solving. Number 12, active listening. Number 13, adaptability. Number 14, innovation. 15 and 16, resilience and respect. 17 and 18, critical thinking, positivity. Then you have things like empathy, empowerment, flexibility, and responsibility. A lot of those skills require a high emotional intelligence. If a lot of men can't even read and comprehend words, identify context, I know that they can't sit here and see the emotional state of other people and how to operate emotionally in an appropriate manner with other people. They can't identify their own emotions. They can't regulate their own emotion. They cannot express to you their own emotion. They do not have the brain capacity to look at something complex and reason with it. So men being leaders is really a lie. It's a fallacy. Because men will argue you that they are good leaders and supposed to be leaders because they are logical thinkers. They are physically stronger than you. And because force is the reason why they are able to put themselves in leadership positions and maintain them. What a lot of men don't realize is logic requires emotion. You have to combine the emotional with the critical thinking part, with the analytical part. You have to combine both of those things. And men just suck at doing that.
It's an astute observation. So what you're telling me is that men are trash leaders. And we should just put women up there. Just do that. What do you have to say about this, ma'am?
Let me tell you something. Out of all the years I have worked in my life, the worst thing a female can ever do to herself in the workforce is work with a group of females. It is absolutely the worst thing ever. You want to talk about going to high school again, dealing with high school drama because they want to talk about you behind your back and be petty as a tattletale and can't step to you like a grown-ass woman? Go get a job with a group of females. It will literally be the most breakdown, draining experience you'll ever have in your life.
Woman in the comments says, I left my dream job because of this. It was either that or jail. Another woman says, this is literally so true. See a man here in the comments. I don't know what you're talking about, sir, but I don't want to hear that, Nick. You're a man. What would you know? Another woman says, my mom is going through that drama right now because she wants to do her job, does not want to be a part of the club. Interesting.
Okay, be honest. This is a safe space. Was your worst boss a man or a woman? And if it was a woman, was it a black woman or a white woman? And I'm only asking because it was a Twitter topic, and a good portion of black people were saying that they felt like black women were some of the worst bosses that they ever had. Now, this is what I will say. Women have been the worst bosses I've ever had. And this is just my personal opinion. I'm not saying it's a statistic all around the world. I'm not saying anything crazy like that. I'm just saying in my first job I've ever had is when I was 16 years old. The worst boss I've ever had, every time I've ever had like a really, really bad boss, they're all women. And they're not black women. Now, I've had bad black women bosses, but for some reason, it doesn't seem to be a race thing. It just seems like, and again, like it really could just be a coincidence, but all of the worst bosses I've ever had are women. Why is that? Why are so many people having the same experience as me? Now, y'all be saying black women. I've had bad black women bosses, but for the most part, the other women were worse. Honestly, in the work setting, at least since I've lived in Atlanta, black women honestly have had my back. No hate, no shade. No shade to anybody else's experiences. I'm not saying this is honestly a safe space. This is not meant to argue. It's not meant to put anybody down. I'm just saying it was a topic on Twitter that I've seen, and I've seen a lot of people saying that, and I was like, oh, okay, that's different. I very rarely had bad male bosses. Very rare. But I've had males that I hated working with, but it was been very rare that I've had bad male bosses. Yeah? Okay.
Kalilia says, a white woman is the worst. She said that as a white woman. Angela says, worst boss, white woman. Most incompetent boss, to be fair, was a white man. Cheryl says, or I think her name is Charlie. Actually, my bad. White women because of the passive aggression. Black women are more direct even if they are bad bosses. I respect that more and can work around it. Okay, got it. Another woman says, white women are the worst. Best bosses are white men. Another woman says, white Gen X women. Another woman here, Mary, says, a white woman. Bittersweetener says, a white woman by far. The men have never made me cry, but the white women, too much. Another woman says, white woman, no contest. Another woman says, white woman. Another woman says, it's always a white woman. Another woman, as a white woman, says, My worst was a white woman, and I've had quite a few. Next clip.
My boss called herself trying to be funny. She comes to my desk talking about some Carolyn. Do you plan on leaving on time today? I said, absolutely. She was like, oh, I don't know why I asked you that. You always leave on time. You might I do. I always leave on time. She's like, oh, well, no, I'm just saying I got somewhere important to be by 5. So when you leave, can you make sure you come grab me? I got to make sure I get out of here on time. I'm like, girl, just say that next time. You ain't have to leave with all that other shit.
If you offer me a job and I find out my manager, my direct supervisor is going to be a minority, babe, keep that DEI hire and keep that job offer too. I prefer to work under white men.
And it's almost like every time a black woman tells you about their experience, whether in corporate America, dating, romance, friendships, y'all be losing y'all. You don't understand the plight of a black woman in corporate America? Then shut the fuck up. What she said is absolutely true. A lot of black women thrive under white men in corporate America. I've had both. I've had white women and I've had white men. And honestly, the easiest managers I've ever had were white men. But the white woman before, absolutely. The lady pretty much called me everything but a child of God. Okay? Boggled me down with work. Okay? Complain about the smallest, okay? Didn't give a f about the professional development of me. I had to leave. Hell on earth. The white man, completely different story. White men, maybe they don't see us as a threat. Maybe that's what it is. Because so easy. So fucking easy. I was able to apply to grad school because of my white male manager. I got my MBA because he encouraged me to. No kidding. No kidding.
I'm currently working for a white male millennial manager. Girl, I am thriving. In capital letters. She had that in capital letters. That was Megan. Jay says, I'm not gonna lie. My favorite bosses have been white men. You have a man here talking about working under a black woman. He didn't want to do that. But sir, we don't care about your opinion because you're a man. Let's go to some other stuff. Honey, my executive director is a black woman and you cannot bat your eyelash at that lady. God forbid you have a mind of your own. Kay says, all of the best bosses I've had were white men. They have literally treated me like their daughter. Haley says, I stand 10 toes down for my excellent, fearless black woman manager. Positive sign there. Sasha says, thank you. White men managers over white women, black women, please. Last on the list. Totally agree with her. Another one. They can't stand me now, but I used to work under a white gay manager in college and he was amazing. Another woman says, my favorite manager is a white male boomer. I love him. Next clip.
I want to talk more about why so many of us find female bosses to be amongst the most toxic and damaging that we've ever had in our career. So speaking from personal experience, I mean, guys, I've had some bad bosses in my career, and I'll tell you more about some of those another time. But in particular, I had this one female boss who decided that they had to lead like a man in order to be successful. And by man, I actually mean a stereotypical toxic alpha male, all the wrong reasons, all the wrong behaviors. But that was the decision they made. For me, that made my life miserable. We didn't relate at all on a personal level, and on a professional level, every day was charged and frustrating and upsetting for me because I couldn't seem to get it right. She wanted things from me that I simply couldn't give her. But here's what I know in retrospect. And by the way, you know, this person really, really did a number on my confidence at the time, but I have recovered since then and I want to share some of my insights. But here's what I've learned since then. This person was fantastic at their job. So on a functional level, you know, A star, they were brilliant at what they did. but they weren't a great leader. I can see that now in hindsight, and they were in a leadership position. One of the reasons for this, and this is why I focus on this so much in my coaching, it's actually the foundation of all of my leadership coaching, is that they lacked self-awareness and they lacked the capacity to be self-reflective in any way. So they would never sit and think about their behavior. They would simply barrel on through the day and didn't really matter what damage they caused in their wake. Being self-aware as a leader means that you are able to reflect on who you are, the good and the not so good. So yes, think about your strengths and your skills. Also think about any biases or blind spots that may be getting in the way of you being a really effective and empathetic leader. This person didn't have any of those capabilities. It was pretty clear to me now. This is not to excuse their behavior. I have sought to understand it over the years, and that's why I now coach and teach self-reflection and self-awareness as the first step on your leadership journey. Can you relate to any of this? If you've ever had a boss like that, male or female, do you think they're just not self-aware? Let me know in the comments, because I'd love to continue this discussion on bad female bosses.
Sonia says, I am a feminist and I am devastated to confirm this. See a man here in the comments. I don't want to hear about you, sir. I'm sorry about that. Caroline says, I totally agree. In my experience, female bosses seem to be quite toxic. Have had to leave jobs because of this. See another man. I had a toxic guy. I don't want to see that from you, Tech. You're a man. What do you know? Woman says, totally agree. I'm burnt out and mentally under the weather. I'll say it like that. As a result. Another woman says they're scared that someone will take their job. I could go on. But next clip.
Here's what I've learned from having a really boss at a really young age. 1, not all bosses are like that. Your boss might be like that. Not all bosses are like that. 2, if someone cannot remember your name, just get on Indeed. Get on LinkedIn. If they cannot remember your name, if they cannot remember something simple that you told them, they do not respect you. Point blank, period. I worked for a very small company. I tell you, the boss got everybody's name wrong. Everybody's name. She had 25 employees, only 25 names she needed to remember, and she could not get all 25 right. Everyone worked directly with her every single day, and she did not respect her employees enough to remember their name. Get on Indeed, get on LinkedIn. Your job should not have you leaving in tears every single day. You should not be crying excessively. You can have a bad day. There are things such as a bad day, or factors, there are outside factors, factors in work. It's okay to have a bad day. Crying every single day? Let's find a new one. Let's find a new job. You have nothing to prove. You have nothing to prove to them personally. You are doing your job if you're producing the numbers you need to produce, if you know you're doing a good job, but you just feel like you can't tease the person that you're working for. It is not your job to impress them on a personal basis. It is your job to do your job and do it well, but it is not your job to please them. That's it. Work-life balance. That is a thing. I do believe that is a thing. My old boss used to say that was not a thing. There's no such thing as a work-life balance, and that there shouldn't be. I do not believe that. We were not put on this earth to work every single day of our life, cry every single day of our life. We are meant to be around the ones we love. We are meant to make memories. We were not meant to be a slave to our job. Nobody is meant to do that. Remember, if you hate your job right now, it's temporary. It's a season. You might be in a rough patch. It's okay. We can get through it. That's what I learned.
Small team of 25 people. You don't remember any of their names. This was also a woman.
Your worst manager has been a woman, right? Right? It used to be really hard for me to admit that the worst experiences I've had with managers, it's always been women. And not just me, I feel like when I even hear stories from other people, it's always like female managers that they're struggling with. I don't know, in my experience, I just feel like I could always tell when my manager was having a bad day in her personal life, just by the way she interacted with me, just by her interactions with the team. Like, you could always tell that whatever mood she was because of something personal and that she brought that into work. And then in some cases, they're either weirdly competitive with you, or like they kind of want to be your friend in some way. And when you're not like giving that energy back, then they come back with weirder energy. I don't know. It's just so hard to like get into their mind to figure out. It's a lot of mind games, a lot of mind games. Yo, I feel so bad when I say this because I like to think of myself as a feminist. So for me to say this, it's like, damn, I'm trying to be woman power, but some of y'all suck. It's also a very specific type of woman that makes the worst manager, but we can go into that another time.
Edge of Mom says, the absolute worst, especially the ones that are older with no children. Another woman says, my bad male managers were creeps. My bad female managers were bullies. I see a man here in the comments, we gonna skip you, sir. Another woman says, mine was a black woman. Another person says, nah, you're a man, I don't want your opinion, sir. Here's a woman that says, a white woman, currently in therapy because of her and working through PTSD. Catherine says, I currently have a female micromanager and just her presence makes me angry or anxious. Michelle says, my worst manager is the one that I have now, and she is a woman. Another woman says, don't get me started. Next clip.
Let me tell y'all something. Working with women is very challenging. It is. It's always this secret competition. It's always this secret animosity. It's like women don't know how to be happy for one another. You can't trust them. I don't know. If the building was on fire, I wouldn't run in there to save nobody. And that's just how I feel. And that's sad because you're supposed to trust the people that you work with, but I don't. I'm sorry. I don't.
Brittany says, the bees I work with go out for drinks after work, then talk crap about each other the next day. Used to be offended when I didn't get invited, but I've learned to just do my work and keep it pushing. Audie says, currently experiencing this. It's so sad. Erica says, let me work with men. It's a lot happier place. Let's go into the next clip.
Older women have just as much internalized misogyny and cruelty towards.
As soon as I saw this, I had to stitch this. I hope that I can get all this into 60 seconds. So the worst boss I ever had was a boomer. I'm in my 40s. She's a little older. She was like 10 years older than me. And she drank a lot, and we went to this conference together that I was like speaking on a panel. And so I got a free room, but she made me downgrade my room from a king to 2 queens so that she could, the COO of the company, could share the room with me. And then she drank the whole time. And I won't even tell you the ways that she, made a scene about me being sober, but she drank and talked about her Republican politics all night long. And then when I asked her when we got back if I could please have 1 remote day a week, when I got back that Monday, she had moved my office to a freaking closet.
Lady boomers terrify me. Always been a negative experience working with them. Older women were always terrible to me. These are women saying this. Next clip.
Why do women managers have the worst attitudes? I swear about 95% of women managers, bro, they go on a power trip every single time. Like, we get it, you're a manager. Like, is it just me? Like, I don't know. Like, half the time they're rude. They always want to just show they're in power. Like, like, they're nitpicky. Like, they give you attitude. It's like, bro, it's not necessary. Like, most dude managers I've had, they like, laid back and stuff like that. They chill, cut up with you. The women managers, bro, oh my gosh. I'm not trying to be sad or anything, and I love all the women out here, but man, I don't know. Managing, it gives me a headache, bro.
Hold on, Tay. I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't want to hear from you, Doc. We don't want women thinking that it's men trying to hold them down. Next clip.
I will say, though, I get it, and I empathize with women managers in general, because I feel like women, when they get into these leadership positions, they are hyper aware of how they are perceived as women, especially Black women. But women in general, they're hyper aware of how overly criticized they can be. So they're really stressed out and they're really scared about, doing anything wrong. But in that same vein, I don't want that stress leaching into my job. Men are able to be a lot more lackadaisical. They're able to like really be much more calm. They're not thinking so much about how they're being perceived. Women managers, they know how people think about women in leadership positions. And then let it be a black woman, they're so stressed about up. So while I empathize and I understand why they act like that, I'm so sure that's why they act that way. I just don't need that in my life. I don't need that in my day-to-day. I don't need your stress. And it's sad because you want to see a manager that you see yourself in fully, especially as a woman. But I don't want that stress in my life. It's not conducive. I don't need it.
Let's read some more comments here. Millennial white women are the worst managers. Somebody else says every female boss I've ever had has been a nightmare. Somebody else, female managers should pay the therapy bill when you escape. Let's move on to the next clip.
I'd rather work with men than women. Now hear me out. I know y'all like, oh no, I'm out of here. Listen to my theory. Have you ever had a female manager that was nice to you? I'll wait. No. Exactly. I have never had a female manager that was nice to me. I've never had a work environment full of women and it was no drama. I love working with men. They make the workplace drama free. Let's just say that. They make the workplace drama free. They have a very great sense of humor at work. And men don't bring their home drama to work. Women, we bring our drama from home to work. We do. I did. Every woman will. Any type of stress they got going on in their personal life, anybody pisses off at work, they could get it. That's not how men really operate. Anytime I work with a lot of women, it was always drama. Let me give you an example. So before I owned my salons, I worked at a barbershop. The best thing I could ever do for myself. I worked at the barbershop. The men in the barbershop was so chill. They were so chill. Every time they got money, they was buying us liquor at the barbershop. We was drinking. They was asking me if I want something to eat when they go get some lunch. It was so chill. Like, we was vibing the music. The only time there was drama is when they baby mamas would come and try to argue with them and fight with them because they was cheating on their baby mamas. Like, and we would be looking like, oh my gosh. Like, what the hell? It was so chill. Now, when I left the barbershop, when I decided to open up my salon, I was surrounded by so much women at my salon. It was drama every single day. It was the customers cursing out the hairstylists and the hairstylists cursing out each other, and somebody didn't like this, and oh, why you did this? Why you keep using my brush? Why you keep using my hairspray? Oh, you're annoying. Oh, your man want me. It was so much drama. They were coming in the salon with their eye blacked out because their baby father would beat them up, and then they would literally take out their anger out on supplies. They would be pumping mad soap in their hand on purpose. They would be arguing with clients. Women are full of drama. I never wanted to work with women ever again. Like, as soon as my salons closed, I was like, nope. I'd rather work with men. Running a salon or working in an environment full of women, whether you work at Macy's full of women, whether you work in Victoria's Secret full of women, whether you work at an office space full of women bring a lot of drama. And I always told myself, if I was to ever go back to the workplace, I would only work with men. And it's not because I'm male-centered. It's because I know that having a lot of men at a workplace gives me balance, okay? It allows me to not have to curse nobody out. Like, it's very rare you're cursing a man out unless he's sassy. Like, so that sassy is half of a woman, to be quite honest. But I will never work in an environment full of women ever again. Let me know how y'all feel about this, because a lot of y'all work in environments full of women and it's probably drama. You probably get headaches going home. You probably be annoyed. If you are the type to feel as if working with women is annoying, just work with men.
Let's see what the woman says here. Woman doctors as well, and this hurts to say, but it's true. Another one, I highly agree. It's always a dang competition. I'll stop right there. Let's go to the next clip.
You know what I don't like that I'm just now noticing is that I don't like having female managers or supervisors. I don't. I've had male managers and I've had white female managers and it was good. It's the black ones and I hate that for us. I hate it. Because I want y'all to be great, but at this point, don't be great over here. Don't be great around me. Because you are bringing the whole morale down, the mood down. You're coming off as a parent and we are all adults. I'm going to need you to separate the two. This is not that. I'm not your child. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I used to hate that when people said it until I started to notice a pattern in the behavior. And I'm like, we're at work longer than we're at home sometimes, and you are wreaking havoc in people's lives. Like, people are depressed at these jobs because of management. And I've noticed, like I said, a lot of times it's the black female managers. And it's horrible. Because I really want you ladies to be great. Amazing. Just don't be great over here. Just don't be great over here. I don't need you to manage me. I'm sorry. I want a different type of manager. I'm sorry. It's because it's just not working out. It's not working. I don't like it.
Y'all, I thought they was lying about having a black female supervisor, but no, they wasn't lying. Like, that is hell, literally.
Listen, I am a girl's girl. I support women's rights and sometimes women's wrongs. I'll call you out on your, but I'll probably still pick your side. So what I'm about to say isn't bashing women. However, I think it's very interesting the dynamics that we have whenever it comes to having a male in leadership versus a female in leadership. A lot of people tend to say it's easier to work with male bosses than female bosses. And from my personal experience, that has been true. So recently I was working under this female supervisor in a field that I worked in before. Whenever I worked in this field before, I had a male supervisor. I remember whenever I started working in that field with the male supervisor, sometimes I worked very late nights and I would have questions. So the first time that I reached out to him, I had sent him a text. He didn't respond until hours later, but then whenever he did respond, he said, "My apologies for the delay and not getting back to you earlier. In advance, if you need me, please feel free to call me. And if I don't get back to you whenever you call me multiple times. That's fine." So recently, whenever I had the female supervisor in this field that I now have experience in, I reached out to her about an issue that I came across, and I kind of felt confident that I could solve the issue, but it was just that little iffy part that I was like, okay, let me reach out to her. I texted her and she didn't respond. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to proceed and get this over with. I'm confident that I know what I'm doing, so I'm just going, it's cool. Time passes. A couple hours later, she texts me and she says, "Nisha, you can't expect me to be up at this time of hour. If you need me, call me. If I don't answer, call me again." Now, I respect directness. I respect authority. But her verbiage kind of threw me off because this was the first time that I had to reach out to her. And the first time that I reached out to this male figure, he came at me with a little bit more grace. And I say that to say this, even though I do think that she could have worded that better and talked to me like I am an adult, I am almost 30, so I've witnessed my female bosses have male higher-ups and my male bosses have male higher-ups. And oftentimes, those higher-ups are much more harsh and critical on the female supervisors or bosses than they are on the male bosses. And it could be for a plethora of reasons, but also, I personally have witnessed how misogyny and the patriarchy have influenced what becomes of female supervisors and male supervisors. There was this interview recently with that Mexican OT, and basically he was saying the N-word, and a female was like, "What gives you the right to say that?" And that Mexican OT said, "I wish it was some men in here so I can respond." When he said that, he said it because he is physically stronger than women. He could easily dominate over these women, but he didn't want to take advantage of that situation because whenever a man enters the room physically, he could beat up Mexican OT, but Mexican OT was basically expressing like he's not going to back down regardless of who in the room. That same type of mentality happens with
male higher-ups and male supervisors. If it's a female supervisor, those male higher-ups kind of feel like physically and mentally like you can't really compete with me, so I can do what I want. But sometimes whenever it comes to a male supervisor with male higher-ups, those higher-ups are like, okay, mentally, you might not be able to whoop me, but physically, you might be able to beat my ass, so let me watch my mouth. And thus, it trickles down to us seeing these male supervisors being super cool and like give us grace whenever it comes to situations, and these female supervisors being like super strict and kind of harsh in their words. I'm not saying it happens every time, but it is something that I've witnessed multiple times. You know, it's very unfortunate how misogyny and the patriarchy have generalized how we perceive women in power, and how that also makes us not want to have women in these powerful positions.
What was that you were saying again about men aren't good leaders? See, you were only looking at one side of the floor. Probably hungry. So that's why you said that. Next time you do some research and you'll do a better job.